Hey everyone, this is Miss Jacobson. In this video, we're going to talk about how to represent proportional relationships with graphs. Alright, so this question says, fill in the table and graph the following proportional relationship on the grid below. And the proportional relationship we're going to look at is going to be y equals 4 times x. So just a couple reminders here. Just looking at this equation, we know, it's already set up in the form of y equals kx. So we already know the constant of proportionality, which is going to be 4. So that value might be useful to us when we go to graph it. We might look for kind of a pattern. We're going to see that 4 in the graph. And then we're going to want to fill in the table. And we'll start with the table first because the table is going to help us to graph it. So a couple things, the way that this will work is we're going to pick values for x and we're going to substitute those into the equation and then solve for y, and then we'll use the y value and the x value to graph on the grid. Because our grid in this case, the numbers only go 1 through 10 on the x and y axis, we're going to want to start by choosing our x values relatively small. We could theoretically choose any number for x, but because we're going to try to graph this on this smaller grid, we're going to choose smaller numbers. So I'm going to start with 0 for x, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that equation and I'm just going to substitute in the x with a 0. So it's going to be y equals 4 times 0. And so then when we solve that for y, well, 4 times 0 is just 0. So that first row in the table is going to be 0, 0. That's going to be our ordered pair when we go to graph it, which we'll get to in a moment. So for the next x value, I'm going to choose 1. So I'm going to go y equals 4 times, and then I'm going to replace the x again, this time with the 1. 4 times 1 is 4. So my y value for that row is going to be 4. The ordered pair when I go to graph it will be 1, 4. Right? The next x value that we'll choose is going to be, we'll go 2 for this one. So it's going to be y equals 4 times, and I'm replacing the x in the original equation with 2. Well, 4 times 2 is 8. So my ordered pair would be 2, 8. And just for sake of consistency, we'll just choose 3 for the next x value. So it's going to be y equals 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. So my ordered pair when I go to graph that is going to be 3, 12. So something that you might notice when you look at this table is you might notice a little bit of a pattern in that y column, and that comes back to the constant of proportionality. So remember we said that the constant of proportionality is 4 in this equation. So notice how every time the x value increases by 1, going from 0 to 1, I'm increasing by 1, 1 to 2, I'm increasing by 1, 2 to 3, it's increasing by 1. The y value is going to increase by 4 because the constant of proportionality is 4. 0 to 4, going up by 4, 4 to 8, goes up by 4, 8 to 12 goes up by 4. So just something to pay attention to as you're working through these problems, and as you're going to graph it, you might notice a lot of patterns like that. So our next task here is we need to graph this, and we're going to use our table. We're going to use the ordered pairs on our table that we came up with, and we're going to use those to graph. So the first ordered pair that we have here is 0, 0. Okay, so remember if we have an ordered pair of 0, 0, that's the origin. So I'm going to put a point at the origin. The next one we have is 1, 4. So remember the x value, x-axis is here, y-axis is the vertical axis. So 1, 4 is going to be over 1 up 4. The next ordered pair is 2, 8. So I'm going to go 2 spaces to the right, 8 spaces up. And then the last one that I have is 3, 12, and unfortunately 3, 12 is not going to quite fit on this graph. It'll be, we'll say somewhere over here. Okay, so at this point we have our points plotted, and now we just need to connect the points with a straight line. I would suggest if you're doing this on paper to use a ruler. I, however, am doing this on a tablet, so it's going to be a little bit trickier to do this, so I'm just going to try my best to make it a straight line. And then normally we do put an arrow on the end to just show that it's extending infinitely, so that line is going to extend on. So that is how you take an equation and turn it to a table and then to a graph, to graph a proportional relationship. So that's where we're going to stop today. I hope you all have a great day. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you later.